Yes! What is up, everyone? And after an awesome weekend of watching the Premier League and the Bundesliga get started, and Leo Messi scoring the first bicycle of his career with PSG, and how is that the first ever bicycle he's ever scored? That's really hard to believe, given how ridiculously talented he is. Anyway, my hype levels for the leagues to start in Italy and Spain this upcoming weekend are at an all-time high. So I couldn't wait to tell myself in the mirror, F it, let's do another preview. And we have to do Serie A first. La Liga can wait. And that's because, in my humble opinion, Serie A is the most wide-open top 5 league in Europe. France and Germany are already locked up by one team, and England and Spain are two-horse races, assuming Barcelona's accountants can continue to cook the books. Whereas in Italy, I think we have 3, potentially 4 that have the chance of winning it. So I can't wait to talk about the calcio. And out of respect, we're going to start with the defending champions first, AC Milan, who won their first Scudetto since the 2010-2011 season, when Clarence Seedorf, Andrea Pirlo, Gennaro Gattuso, Alessandro Nesta, and this one guy named Zlatan Ibrahimovic were still playing. And that feels like a long time ago, unless you're 40 years old, and named Zlatan, who plays for Milan once again, getting 8 goals in his 23 league appearances last season, which is incredible. The guy is a machine. But much to Zlatan's chagrin, he wasn't the main reason why they won. The main reason was not only the steady guidance of manager Stefano Pioli, but also the emergence and maturity of their younger players who were ready to take on more responsibility in every line of the field. Like 23-year-old Rafael Leao up top, who had 14 goals and 11 assists in 42 games in all competitions last season. Very, very good. 22-year-old Sandro Tonali finally showing that consistency that was missing earlier on in his career. He also chipped in with 5 big goals and 2 assists in league play from his deep lying position in midfield. And 24-year-old center back Fikayo Tomori, who really made the back line his own after Simon Kjaer went down with a season-ending injury. So you add this newfound confidence that can only come from being champions to the undeniable talent that is found all over this squad, like Theo Hernandez, Brahim Diaz, Mike Mignon in goal, who's been excellent in replacing Donnarumma, and their steal of a signing in 6'4", 21-year-old Belgian international Charles de Ketelaere. I think that's the way you actually say it, who can play any position in the front 3, and 22-year-old Yassine Adli, who was one of the players who created the most chances in Ligue 1 last season, despite his team Bordeaux getting relegated, which really speaks to his quality. So you combine all of this talent together, and it just gives this team even more flexibility. However, climbing to the top is a lot easier than staying there. So as much as I believe Milan will be fighting for the Scudetto until the very end, I think they're going to come up just short second. And next up, it's hell yes Verona, who will take part in their 4th consecutive season in Serie A after finishing in 9th last year, which is their longest stretch in Italy's top flight since doing it for 9 straight years from 1982 to 1992. And that's mainly because Giovanni Simeone was such a beast for them last year. He had 17 goals and 5 assists in 36 league games, which was tied with Tammy Abraham for 4th in the Golden Boot race, which honestly, he's going to have to match or improve upon if Verona want to continue to be a solid mid-table team, because collectively as a group, they have serious lapses in concentration, conceding a league-high 19 goals in the last 15 minutes of play over the course of the whole year, which would drive any coach crazy, including the new one they just hired over the summer, Gabriele Scioffi. So if he can get them organized on the defensive side of the ball, and Simeone and new signing Thomas Henry, who had 9 goals and 3 assists for Venezia last season, can keep banging them in, then I'd like them to be close to where they were last season, which is mid-table purgatory, 10th. And now let's chat about everyone's favorite hipster team over the last few seasons, Atalanta, because Gianpiero Gasperini, who's in his 7th season in charge of the club, making him the longest tenured active manager in the league, got found out last year when they finished in 8th. And this was a team that had legitimate title hopes when the season started. In fact, on match day 17 of last year, they were in 3rd place, only 3 points behind Inter at the top. And from that point on, they would have the 14th best record the rest of the season, winning just 5 of their remaining 21 games, which is insane. That drop-off was super steep. But what's even more insane was their home form. They only won 4 out of 19 games at home in Serie A. 4! Which is embarrassing for a team of their quality. And for me, that's a mentality. It's not talent or skill. It's a desire and a willingness to make plays in front of their home fans. And that's something they definitely need to improve upon if they're going to be the Atalanta we know and love moving forward. But maybe Gasperini's been there too long. Maybe they need to hear a different voice. I don't know. But I'm going to say 6th until they show me different. And keeping this calcio train moving, let's discuss the hopes and dreams of Udinese, because Do you think they have hopes and dreams after finishing in 12th last season, which is the 9th straight year they have finished with a 12th place or worse finish? Is that possible for the Little Zebras and their fans? Do any of you actually know any Udinese fans? I don't, and I really want to know a few of them now. Anyway, let's talk about their bright spots. They had their best goal difference in close to 10 years, which was +3. Don't make fun of them, okay? That is a good thing. They also scored their most goals in 11 years in a season, led by Gerard Deulofeu, who had 13 goals in 34 appearances, and Beto, who had 11. And they have one of the best young left backs in the world in 19-year-old Destiny Udogie in their squad, or they did until Antonio Conte and Tottenham just scooped him up. So there goes me saying they're going to finish in 10th to break their 12th place or worse curse, so I'm going to have to go with 14th. And next up, it's Bologna, who, fun fact, have won 7 Scudettos in their history. I bet you didn't know that. However, the last one was won in 1964, and that was a while ago. And after finishing in 13th last year on 46 points under their manager, the charismatic Sinisa Mihajlovic, they probably won't win it this season either. So let's keep things based in reality and focus on the real goal for Bologna, which is achieving a 50-point season, because they've only done that twice since 2001. And I think that could be a distinct possibility for them if, and there's 2 ifs here, but the first one is if Austrian international and former West Ham striker Marko Arnautovic can match what he did for them last season when he scored 14 goals in 33 games. And if, this is the second one, they can stop leaking goals, man. They've allowed 50 or more goals in each of the last 6 seasons. And among current clubs in Serie A, they've allowed the second most in the past 5 years. So tighten that shit up, Bologna. It's not rocket science. And you know what? I think, because I'm feeling positive right now, they're going to get exactly 50 points this year and finish in 11th. And now it's time to talk about my favorite Italian club, Roma, 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 who in my humble opinion, and despite my bias, had the best transfer window of any club in Serie A. Yes, I said it. Paulo Dybala and Nemanja Matic for free. Yes, please. Gini Wijnaldum on loan. Yes, please. And Zeki Çelik from the Turkish national team who helped Lille win the league Untitled 2 seasons ago. Yes, please. Because all these guys are winners. They're difference makers and players that the special one Jose Mourinho can trust in the biggest games. I mean, a potential front 3 of Dybala, Tammy Abraham, and Nicolo Zaniolo, assuming he doesn't leave. Inject that straight into my veins. My only concern, okay, fine, maybe I have more than one, but my biggest concern then is the center backs. We only have 4, Smalling, Mancini, Ibanez, and Kambula, and we're most likely playing a back 3. So not only do they have to play consistently well, they also have to stay healthy, and both are big question marks for me because I think you know me well enough by now to know that I firmly believe that you have to be solid defensively to win any trophy of consequence. I mean, just look at any league champions in any league. Usually they have a top 3 defense, and I'm just not sure that this Roma team can compete for the Scudetto with who they currently have in their back line. I hope they prove me wrong, but I'm just not feeling it. That said, I do think that they're going to get in the top 4, and that in itself is a step in the right direction. Dai Roma, 4th! And up next, it's Torino. You know, the other team in Turin, not named Juventus, and who were favorites to be relegated at the start of last season because they had finished in 16th and 17th in the 2 prior years to that. Well, they weren't even close last season to that happening, as they finished in 10th in Ivan Juric's first season in charge, which I believe was primarily due to them being studs defensively, only giving up 41 goals in 38 games. Good for 5th best in the whole league, but they just sold the reigning Serie A Defender of the Year Bremer to Juventus, and their longtime goal-scoring hero Andrea Belotti, who scored 113 goals in 251 games for the club, ran out his contract, and it's rumored he might be heading to Roma, Roma, Roma on a free transfer. Dai Roma. So this season could look and feel a little bit different for Torino, but I love how they defend, so I'm going to say 12th. And I'm hungry just thinking about this team, Cremonese, because it sounds like an amazing pasta dish when actually it's a recently promoted team from Serie B who are back in the top flight of Italy for the first time since 1996. Also, here are 3 fun facts about this club before I tell you where they're going to finish. 1, they didn't spend one day at the top of Serie B last season. They finished in 2nd to get promoted automatically. And is that important to know? Does that say something about them as a group feeling comfortable as 2nd best? I don't know. 2, since 1929, they've only spent 7 years in Serie A, and their best finish was 10th back in 1994. 3, their new manager Massimiliano Alvini, though good friends with Maurizio Sarri, has never managed in Serie A before, only Serie B and C. So yeah, I don't know how else to say it. These dudes are 1,000% getting relegated. 20th. And up next, it's Napoli, who, to the surprise of no one, started off super strong like they usually do, being on top of the table for 12 straight match days. Then, when match day 16 hits, they lost 3 out of their next 4, only to fight their way back to the top of the table for one weekend with 11 games to go, if only to give their passionate supporters that little glimmer of hope about their title chances. But then, to the surprise of no one, they faded at the end like they usually do to finish in a distant third. So now, with their golden generation of Insigne, Mertens, and Koulibaly all moving on, can Napoli manage the departures of these players and their vast experience as they try to be competitive in the league, the Champions League, and the Coppa Italia? Well, if stud striker Victor Oseman can continue to take big steps in his development, he had 14 goals and 2 assists in the league last season, and more importantly, if he can stay healthy, because he wasn't healthy for the whole season last year. And if they can match having the best defense in the league like they did last season, then they're always going to have a chance in every single game. But in many ways, this feels like a transition year for manager Luciano Spalletti as they go from old to young. So I'm going to say 5th. And okay, all right, let's talk a little Spezia, who are an interesting club because in 2008, they were in the 5th division. Then only 12 years later in 2020, they played in Serie A for the first time in their 115-year history and finished in 15th to stay up in year 1 and barely finished in 16th to stay up again in year 2. And this is despite giving up 70 or more goals in both seasons. How is that even possible? And you add to the fact that last year the club was handed a 2-year transfer ban from FIFA for signing minors from Nigeria, which is never a good look. Now, the previous owner, Gabriele Volpe, oversaw the ride from the lower divisions to the top, but then sold the team in 2021 to American investors. And those investors appealed the transfer ban and won in the Court of Arbitrations a couple of months ago on June 10th. So what does this all mean? Chaos! That's what this means. And new manager Luca Gotti, who sounds like the head of a mob syndicate, has a lot of work to do both on and off the field to manage this chaos, and I'm not sure if he's going to pull it off, so I'm going to say 18th. And now let's talk some shop about Empoli, who surprisingly finished in 14th last season, not only because they were just promoted, and that's always a difficult task to stay up when you're still kind of a second division team and don't have the same type of budget and maybe not the right mentality. It's just a little bit different, but because they had a 16-game winless streak from mid-December to mid-April. So how did they do that and still survive? I can't believe it until I remember that they were pretty good away from home, including beating Napoli, Juventus, and Atalanta on their travels. So I'm going to give the title of cockroaches of Serie A this season to Empoli. They just don't know how to die. 15th. And okay, all right, let's talk about everyone's favorite cigarette-smoking manager, Maurizio Sarri, who led Lazio to being the 2nd highest scoring team in the league last season, only behind Inter. But their defense was a shambles in comparison, allowing 58 goals in 38 games, which is the 10th best defense in the league. And honestly, you'd really expect better from a manager and players that should know better given his and their collective experience. But maybe switching from a back 3 under Inzaghi to a back 4 under him was too big of an ask for this particular skill set of these particular players. So Lazio rightly used this summer window to get 2 center backs, former Milan captain Alessio Romagnoli for free, who at only 27 years of age is a great pickup if he stays healthy. I know he has some issues there at times. And the behemoth, the 6'5" Nicolo Casale from hell yes Verona, and one of the top young goalkeepers from the Iberian Peninsula, the 23-year-old Portuguese Luis Maximiano, who played with Granada in La Liga last season. So as I always preach, and as I've already mentioned a few times in the video, having a good defense wins you things of consequence. But for Lazio, especially under Sarri, they seem to be all about scoring goals. And there's no one better at it on their squad than Ciro the Hero Immobile. In fact, the Italian international has been so good over the years that since the 2016-2017 season, only Robert Lewandowski and Leo Messi have scored more goals for their club over that same time period. Lewandowski has 191, Messi has 168, and Ciro the Hero has 150, which ties him with Cristiano Ronaldo, which is some elite company. So if he keeps banging in the goals, along with his teammate Milinkovic-Savic continuing his blistering pace or close to it, he's only one of 2 players in Serie A last season that had double goals and assists when he had 11 of each. They will be, at the very least, exciting to watch. But it's their defense that needs to improve, and the jury is still out on whether that's possible. Plus, as a Roma supporter, I can't predict them to finish above my beloved Roma again, so my head and my heart think they're going to finish in 7th. And now it's time to chat about my new favorite named team in Italy, Monza, because it sounds like my favorite named team in Germany, Mainz. And what I love about this recently promoted club, who finished in 4th in Serie B last season, but won the playoff, which has given me strong Nottingham Forest vibes, is that they're owned by Mr. Bunga Bunga himself, Silvio Berlusconi, who then hired his old pal Adriano Galliani to run things. Now, if you're unaware of these two, let me give you a quick history lesson. When Berlusconi owned AC Milan and Galliani was in charge, Milan won 8 Serie A titles and 5 Champions League trophies. So yeah, these guys know what they're doing. But what I also love is the moves that they're making in the transfer window, because they're picking up some legit talent with legit Serie A experience, most notably in midfielder Stefano Sensi, who comes over from Inter on loan, and attacking midfielder Matteo Pessina, who comes over from Atalanta on loan, and Gianluca Caprari, who had 12 goals and 7 assists with Verona last season. So in short, with their big ambitions clearly on display, there is no way they are going to go back down. And in fact, I think they're going to be pretty solid. 12th. And how about we take some time for little old Sassuolo, who finished in 11th last season, which sounds about right, because every time I got to watch them, they always seemed to play to the level of their competition. So for all their big moments last season, when they beat Milan in the San Siro 3-1, or Inter at the San Siro 2-0, or Juventus in Turin 2-1, they would lose at home to Empoli, Bologna, Sampdoria. It just doesn't make any sense. And with the loss of their top goal scorer last season, Gianluca Scamacca to West Ham, it puts even more pressure on Domenico Berardi, who was also excellent last season and who was only one of 6 players to have 15 plus goals and 10 plus assists in the top 5 leagues in Europe. The other 5, you ask? Mbappe, Benzema, Salah, Nkunku, and Vinicius Jr., which really speaks to Berardi's quality. But can he do it again? If he can, I don't think he's going to be at the club much longer. But the bigger issue for me overall is Sassuolo's defending. They only had 3 clean sheets last season. They got to get that sorted out. And if they do, and I think that they will, they'll move a little higher up the table. I'll say 9th. And staying in the S category for names in Serie A, let's chat some Sampdoria, who are one of only 6 clubs to have won Serie A since 1990, joining Juventus, Milan, Inter, Roma, and Lazio. And isn't that wild? I never would have guessed them. They won it back in the 1990-91 season. Anyway, last year, they sucked, but they survived, finishing in 15th place on 36 points, which was the same amount of points they had when they got relegated in 2011. So if they want to not let that happen once again, they have to improve their form away from home. They had the 3rd worst away record in Serie A last season. Only Venezia and Genoa were worse, and they both got relegated. So if they aren't going to be bastards every time they step on the field, no matter where they step on the field, then Serie B is calling their name. But I get the sense that last season was a wake-up call, and they're going to be a little bit tougher, even though it won't be reflected in where they finish in the table, because I kind of like them at 16th. But at least I have them staying up. And to finish up the S names, let's go in hard on Salernitana, who should have gotten relegated last season, because through 30 games, they had won only 3, and they were behind 17th place Cagliari by 9 points with 2 games in hand. And in their last 8, they won 4, drew 3, and lost 1, which was the 3rd best record in Serie A over that time period, only behind both Milan clubs, and they survived, which is the 3rd time that their manager, David Houdini Nicola, has masterminded a Serie A escape. He also pulled it off with Torino 2 seasons ago and with Crotone in 2017. However, the problem I have for them this year is, how do they make it better? Sure, they made some signings over the summer, most notably making the loan move of 25-year-old striker Federico Bonazzoli permanent after he scored 10 goals for them last season, which was 30% of their offense, but they gave up 78 goals too. So once again, I think Houdini is going to have to pull a rabbit out of his hat to keep them up. And because he's done it before, I think he's pretty confident that he can do it again, but barely 17th. Now I want to talk about my old pals Rocco Commisso and Joe Baroni, who I knew from my time in New York City when they were running the New York Cosmos, because now they're running Fiorentina, and what a job they've done, especially last season. Now they started last year flirting with Gennaro Gattuso as their manager. That fell through, so they hired Vincenzo Italiano instead, and he has been super solid, helping the club make a 22-point improvement from the season before. And this is with them selling their best player, Dusan Vlahovic, in January, which makes it even more impressive. And they finished in 7th to qualify for the Europa Conference League playoff, the first time they have touched a spot in European competition since 2017. So, as there should be, there's some excitement around this team and what they're capable of, especially with some summer additions of right back Dodo from Shakhtar Donetsk, Pierluigi Golini in goal, who's on loan from Atalanta, and the man who was amazing in Germany but not so much in Spain, Luka Jovic up top, who they got for free, which obviously makes him a terrific signing. And with him pairing up with Nico Gonzalez, who had 7 goals and 6 assists last season after moving over from Stuttgart the summer before, I think La Viola can be a force to be reckoned with once again and be battling Atalanta and Lazio for that 6th spot. But I think those two will also be a little bit better this time around. So as much as I love you, Fiorentina and Joe and Rocco, I'm going to say 8th. And finally, before we get to the 2 most successful clubs in Serie A history, Juventus and Inter, and okay, relax, AC Milan fans. I know you just drew even with Inter on total Scudettos with your league title win last season, but I let you go first in this whole preview, okay? Doesn't that mean something? Anyway, we need to talk about Lecce, the recently promoted winners of Serie B, who are the resident yo-yo club of Italian calcio, because since the start of the 1999-2000 season, they have spent 10 years in Serie A, 7 years in Serie B, 1 year in Serie C, and 5 years in lower divisions than that. And despite my love for their defensive approach, they had the best defensive record in Serie B last season, only giving up 31 goals in 38 games, which makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Who am I to suggest that they're going to do anything but remain true to their yo-yo reputation? So they're going to go straight back down because that's what they do. 19th. And now, a question. Do you remember when Serie A was won by the same team for 9 consecutive seasons recently, and that team was Juventus? Well, this Juventus is not that Juventus, which was evident last season when they finished in 4th, a full 16 points behind Milan at the top. So, okay, we chalk that up to a transition year under new but old manager Maxi Allegri, because they weren't going to win it every single season. They aren't named Bayern Munich and playing in Germany. But when I look at their summer transfer window and I see some familiar names like Dybala, Chiellini, Bernardeschi, Demiral, and De Ligt moving on, and then Angel Di Maria, Paul Pogba, and Bremer coming in, and the possibility of Filip Kostic and Alvaro Morata joining too, they're not going to lack in the talent department, obviously. It just feels like another season of transition as they look to establish their identity with this new group of players so they can once again be title contenders, which maybe would have been possible if Federico Chiesa was healthy from the start, though I do expect a big year from Dusan Vlahovic and, of course, Weston McKennie from an American perspective. But I don't really know what to make of them yet. They'll be hanging around, of course, because they're Juventus and that's what they do. And they'll probably be closer to the top than they were last season, but I don't feel like they're there just yet. So I'm going to say 3rd, which means we are left with Inter, who despite losing their manager Antonio Conte, the top player in the league in the 2020-2021 season, Romelu Lukaku, along with the super talented wingback Achraf Hakimi the previous summer, yes, all those guys left at the same time, the club still had to feel incredibly disappointed to not only lose the chance of being repeat champions by only 2 measly points, but that they also lost the league title to the team they share a stadium and a city with, AC Milan. So that's got to sting a little bit to see the team that wears different colors in your same city celebrating right up in your face. A bright spot, however, for Inter, Lautaro Martinez, who in Lukaku's absence scored 21 league goals in 35 league games. So it's going to be interesting to see what his numbers look like this season with the return of Lukaku to the squad after Lukaku's dismal return to Chelsea didn't work out the way that anyone would have liked. On the flip side, and something for manager Simone Inzaghi to pay attention to in particular, is the dip in their form in February and March when they won only 1 out of 7 Serie A games, which was during the time they were playing 2 legs against Liverpool in the round of 16 of the Champions League and in the first leg of the Coppa Italia semifinals against Milan. So adding depth and experience in the transfer window like Lukaku, like Henrik Mkhitaryan, and like Andre Onana in goal is going to 100% help. But Inzaghi has to be smart in managing minutes, making sure there's a good rotation of the squad so that they're relatively fresh in every competition that they're competing in. That's going to be huge this particular season. And because I admire Inzaghi, and I know he's learned from this first year of experience of finally managing a team that has the talent to win a Scudetto, I think Inter are going to be hungry to regain what they felt they gave away last season. And I'm going to say first. And all right, that's it. That's all I got. But what are all of you thinking? Let me know who you think is going to win Serie A. Give me your picks for the top 4, the Golden Boot winner, or your surprise player or team of the season in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll see you for the next preview, which is going to be the one from Spain. Later.